For people who want to use whips for combat, they're not used in the traditional sense that people think of when they think of Zorro or Catwoman or Indiana Jones, where they're like here trying to keep them at bay, right? Like this is kind of scary. Chrissy's like, oh God, what's about to happen to me? But you end up getting a bit of a welt, a scratch, cat scratch in some regards. While by far the more damaging portion of this whip is going to be this end, especially of a whip that has a steel handle through here, like 3/8 inch diameter steel with a heavy weight over here. This is going to be a lot less pleasurable. That makes sense. So this is kind of how usually a combat whip's going to be a little bit shorter. This is a little unwieldy because this is the range that you want to be in, right? Think of it like Eskrima or a hammer. This is not going to do anything. This is going to cause a lot more damage, right? Hammering somebody in their skull. Other ways you can use these are like a blackjack or a slapjack. If you've heard of those, it's the ones that have a steel weight that's located, or steel, sorry, a shot bag here that they use to knock people out. So that's the weight right here. I'm gonna have you stick your arm. I'm not gonna hit it. I just want you to feel like how thuddy that feels. Boom, yeah. Decent amount of weight, right? Yeah. So if that comes to the back of their head, it's gonna give them a nice bit of a concussion right through there. Other things that end up using with whips, this is very similar to like nunchuck style right here. This allows you to get a lot of speed and velocity and impact around somebody. But more importantly, the reason nunchucks were banned was the damage they did because of how much they could destroy the bones with leverage. So I'm going to have you stick out your wrist just like this. So if I take this, and I said I usually have it like it's a shorter whip than this, I'm using this as impact, but then I'm also using this as getting guards and strikes away from me. I can also use this to get loops to be able to pull things away or toward me. If you get a nice loop on this, you get a lot of frictional force and a lot of leverage with this. So if I take this, and because my whips can go a lot tighter, I'm going to have you ask you to try and torque your hand the other direction as hard as you can, as hard as you can. That legitimately as hard as you can. So notice this is a single finger. I can even just use my pinky here and do that. Yeah, there's a decent amount of force and leverage. So with nunchucks, you're basically can act more like a nutcracker, right? So it crushes those. So it only takes about like 10 to 20 pounds of force to be able to take these and push them together. And then you're like, oh, yeah, most people can lift 20 pounds, which means it puts a 10-to-1 ratio and can be about 200 pounds on your wrist. That'll crush your bones together. Other things for those people who are familiar with jiu-jitsu, since Brazilian jiu-jitsu is becoming very popular, not becoming, one of the most popular styles in MMA. If you've ever heard of a gi choke, this is where they have their gi. You're able to use the collar, right, against a choke. And now I have this wonderful, very long lever arm to place against somebody's neck, hold this tight. And as I said, it doesn't take a lot of pressure. I'm gonna do this very gently. A lot of force from me to generate a lot of force on the opponent's neck. So those are many, many ways you can use whips. You can also use them as a garrote. Said normally a combat whip is considerably shorter than this. So what the garrote is, the traditional style, is being able to put that up against somebody's neck, push over, giving them a nice fun blood choke or an airway choke, depending what they do. And that's kind of how you end up using a whip a little bit more effectively as a weapon.